That's my councilman.
Yeah, that's right. You know it.
Look what he said.
I'm back at you.
Okay, here we go.
Never goes out.
Okay, we're ready to go. Can we stand for the flag, please? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of the time, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board of the municipal building, mailed to all who have requested and paid for same, and published in Suburban Trends. Roll calls.
Mayor Sir.
Here.
Council President Rick. Here. Councilman Bay.
Here.
Councilman Baranco.
Here.
Councilman Deline.
Here.
Councilman Giacometto.
Here.
Councilman Bennett.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney Joseph Ragno and our Borough Administrator Kevin Boyd.
Okay, we're going to start right away with our presentations. We're going to do the Pompton Lakes Volunteer Fire Department. So everybody who's being sworn in, would you please step forward? I just got to get this mic over here, and I got to get the phone.
I'm gonna leave you out. Come on, Tony. Make room for Tony, will you?
But I'm going to trust you. Touch the next body and then touch the hand.
Tell you love each other.
I state your names. Right hand. Do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey. I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same and to the governments established in the United States and in this state. Under the authority of the people, I will faithfully, impartially, and justly perform all the duties of Pompton Lakes Volunteer Department according to the best of my ability. So help me God. Thank you, guys. There's paperwork for everybody up there, you got to sign.
Tony.
We'll get a picture after that.
Let me see if I have another one there.
And while we're waiting, we all feel up here at the council that we have one of the best fire departments around. I have the calls, they ring on my phone. I can't believe how many calls ring on a daily basis, all different times of the night, and you guys are out there. So thank you for all your support and everything you do. Thank you.
I have another.
I got a pen here, too.
I got another one.
Don't go anywhere because you want a group shot also. Because you all look so snazzy and beautiful. Including myself.
Exactly.
Yeah. This one? Yeah. Okay. This, I don't think is fair. Okay.
I thought they were in the,
Oh, great. Is everybody signed? Yeah.
First
Wait
one.
for it.
Switch together. One more here, right, and looks like you like each other. I'll pull that in back.
Great,
Nice. Oh, I see it. It is.
Thanks, guys.
Big side picture.
All right, Paul. Anybody who would not like to stay can leave now. Okay. Can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments? So moved. Councilman Devine.
Second.
Council President Riker, all in favor? Aye. Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Seeing no...
Yeah, we didn't take...
Gotta move a little faster.
Antonelli, 5 Lambert Street. Hi, everyone. I came first because I went to a Board of Ed meeting a couple of weeks ago, and I had suggested to Dr. Amoroso, the residents in the town, along with the students' parents and the sports parents, could all be notified of the goings-on regarding the proposed turf field. Dr. Amoroso answered that he may not have all those addresses or however you would notify us. It was suggested that maybe Mr. Biggs, so I'll address this to you, said that maybe he could figure something out amongst the council to get them to give you the information and the borough get the information out to all residents about what's going on, because it's affecting some of us more
It
than
is, but
others.
it's a school function, and if they don't have the means to reach out, then they should reach out to us. They haven't reached out to us, so we didn't do anything. If someone was willing to call us and talk about it, then we would see
Well,
what
they
we can
sent a
do.
message through Mr.
I don't know, but it was after the meeting, right? It was way after the meeting. It wasn't before the meeting they sent the message out. So they know,
I don't understand what you're saying.
they had the meeting and then asked us if...
Oh, because
Yeah.
during the meeting,
Right.
it was brought to their attention.
So
Okay.
this is not new to the school, and this is not new to us. We work in conjunction with them in a lot of things. So if they wanted to call us, they could have picked up the phone, and we would have tried to work something out. They do have a pretty large list on their own, but they're going to tell you that they might not have anybody who have kids in school. We can go through our list and target areas that need to be sent out phones. You know, if that's what they want, it would be up to them. They'd have to request it.
I also suggested Channel 77.
Sure, that we would, again, would have no problems putting that stuff up.
But it's not on.
They would have to request it, they didn't request it.
But it's PLT 77 isn't on.
Well, because they're putting in a new line, that takes a month, that's not us, that's Cablevision, they're putting in a new line, it has nothing to do with us. They're putting in the line, they should be done in the next 2 weeks. Once that's up and running, they know they can always ask us to do anything, and we will work with them.
So you're saying I have to go back to the Board of Ed meeting again and make that request to them?
What I'm saying is, it's up to them to make that decision. If they want to, they will contact us, if they don't want to,
Do
they
they
won't.
know that?
Yes, we've used them for other things.
Then how come he told me that wasn't the case, and I should ask that council maybe give him some
Well,
direction?
they know to ask the town. We do shared service with snow plowing and salt.
Is that what it would be, fall under, shared
Yeah, it would be a
services?
shared service.
Okay, well, then I just want to put on record that I'd like that any goings-on regarding where public could have some input, I'd like to be sure that the residents are getting that input.
You'd have to bring that to them, not to us.
Again, okay? You're my witness, I was there, I already made that suggestion, okay? Alrighty then. I don't know whether it matters to tell you, but I'm a real estate salesperson, and I was taking, some buyers down in the south end. I was zeroing on Ramapo Street, ended up not being where they wanted to be. So dark. It was 4:30 going on 5 o'clock. I couldn't see the street signs, the dimly lit. Now, this is in a lot of areas in town. There, I focused because I was showing these homes. The street signs are real bad. And I've been in a few different towns the past week. Livingston and Totowa, North Haledon, they have gorgeous signs. Is that something that borough pays for, or something tells me that's a project?
It's a borough, there was how long ago? It was a couple of years ago, they put out some, talk about changing all lines in the towns, to larger print signs. Some towns did do them, I know Haledon did it. That kind of disappeared, they have stopped pushing that, that was a state.
Who's they?
State had pushed that.
State, okay.
There's a huge cost in replacing all the signs. It would affect we would have to find that money somewhere to do that. The part about the lighting, I agree with you, it is too dark down there. I've been down there at night and it's hard to find. I would hope we could reach out to Jersey Central and see.
Doesn't work that way.
No, we can't do it.
You get to do a street lighting survey to prove you need the lighting, and that's not a cost. I mean, you're talking right now, we pay $69,000 a year just for street lights we have right now. That's a police department does it. Do a street lighting survey at night, make recommendations. We can have that done, but
I've had other residents come to me, and I've been down there, and it is a little dark, so maybe we can reach out to the police department and see if they can help bring that to their attention and see if we can get some more. At the end, it's going to cost us
Maybe you
more.
could take some streetlights from Corning.
That's well before my time.
And third, but not least, I see on number 7, the resolution regarding the grant between Borough of Pompton Lakes and the state of New Jersey for the Community Stewardship Incentive Program grant in the amount of $30,000. We're so excited, and we've got a lot of work to do. Anyway, we could get one of those big checks with the big $30,000 on it, saying, look what we got.
If you make a check, you do that.
Is that how it works?
Yeah, we'll take a picture. If you make a check, we'll definitely take the picture.
Can we use office budget from Shade Tree to do it? Or does it have to be out of our own pocket?
attorney more than...
I'm not even sure.
We might just collect a donation from the group and,
Well, I don't know if you need, I think all you need is a piece of cardboard and someone with a little artwork.
oh, come on, yours looked a whole lot better than that for $2,500.
Well, no, we just did one in the county, they did that.
That was the county did
The
that.
county
Yeah,
did
but
that.
Staples will
And you know
make
who
it.
just did one? The Ed Foundation, Diane Helock did one, and she was careful when she did it. She did it in a way that she removes the number, she can move the numbers so that she's bought one check and uses it each time she has
You
publicity.
can buy this check like this
I'm sure someone
cardboard,
will.
Why
yeah.
don't you inquire where she did it? Because she did it very...
But if you get a check, we will take a picture.
Cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address?
I don't know if I got that, but...
I'm sure you'll try.
Yeah. Listen, just on Facebook recently, Councilman Deline has been on there,
We know who you are, Randy, but name
talking about
Name and address.
sidewalks and bike
Name and
trails.
address.
and address. You didn't say it.
We know who you are.
Got to for the record, public record.
The rate, 443 Montclair Avenue, Pompton Lakes, New Jersey, 07442. Councilman Deline has been on Facebook recently, talking about sidewalks and bike trails. Now, that would also, comments that were on there from residents was talking about lighting. So that really ties in, if you want to do what you want to do. And, lighting is very important for those,
I agree.
bicycle paths, and something that we should look at for this coming year. Channel 77, an update?
I just gave that
Still in the
update.
work? Still in the work?
Up to Cablevision to move the line, they have to dig a trench from the high school to here, and then put a new, that's been done, and how about the actual hookup of the machinery? Is that
I'm waiting for the last...
They're waiting for another piece to hook up. It's out of our hands, it's out of our control. It has nothing to do with the town or the borough. This is in Cablevision's hands. And I want to remind the public again, this is a service we do for the public. This is not something we have to do. So when it's down, we get it up as fast as we can, but it's not something that we're going to bend over backwards to make happen in that day just because it's down for a day.
Just asking for an ETA.
We don't have an ETA. It's up to Cablevision.
Oh, okay. And the town and the residents, and especially the seniors, would
I
like to
agree.
thank you, Mr. Mayor, for this service.
It's a service well used. I agree.
I gotta say, you're doing a hell of a job.
Thank you.
I would like to add, anybody can actually continue to watch the council meetings. It is on the borough's YouTube channel.
Yes, it is. For those who have computers. Those who don't, out of luck. We'll talk of repaid and Montclair Ave, anything on that with grants coming
I'm
up?
waiting for the final decision by the
Okay.
I know that was on the list, though, right? That was on our list.
We applied for the grant.
Yeah,
Applied for
okay.
it, we haven't heard back from DOT.
Okay, as a representative of the Golden Agers, they voted me to bring their news to the council again. And I just wanted to say that we had retirement of officers, Gene Kent, second vice president, Gene Dunhauser, the president, and Pat Galliano, the first vice president. After years and years of them running things, they finally stepped down. Millie Torsiello is now the new president. Dorothy Jankowick is the first vice president, and Barbara Huntsberger is the second vice president.
Good to
So
hear.
we want to welcome them.
Welcome them, and
And recently, we just had one of our members, George McKay, 94 years old, just passed away. 65-year member of the Pompton Reformed Church. Very nice man.
I know.
And it was a shame that he passed on.
And I will tell you this, I have felt for many years that our seniors were represented to us because they didn't come to the meetings for whatever reason they couldn't make it.
Right.
But if they have a representative like yourself or somebody else who wants to bring their or issues to us, that's good, because sometimes we don't hear enough of what the issues are for them.
Correct.
So, if they have ideas that they would like to see, now's the time to bring it forward for us.
Sure. And we do have a liaison, but has a little trouble making the meeting sometimes.
Everybody has busy
if he
lives.
If he can work on that a little bit, we really appreciate it.
We're going to use you as the liaison, so.
Well, I mean, there are liaisons to all committees.
Yes, there is. And people miss the liaisons, that happens.
So,
But, I appreciate the fact that someone will bring their voice here, so that's a good thing.
okay. But we will use the council rep there once
I
in a while
agree.
to answer questions, especially with taxes the way they're going to be
Okay?
and different issues. So
Okay.
if you could talk to that liaison.
I'll look it up in my paperwork and see where we are.
If he could come once in a while. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing that, motion to close the public session.
So moved.
Councilman DeLine. Second. Councilman Bennett. All in favor? Aye. Against? Approval of minutes. Motion to approve the following minutes. Special closed meeting minutes of January 10th, 2018, 5:30. Regular meeting minutes of January 10th, 2018. Closed session meeting minutes, 10th of 2018. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Second.
Councilman Bennett. All in favor? Aye. Against? Bills and claims. Motion to approve the following bills as listed below. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Bay?
Second.
Councilman DeLine? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Petitions, we have none. Consent agenda, whenever you're ready.
Does anyone wish to have anything forward?
Nope.
Whereas the mayor and council of the Borough of Pompton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of Borough of Pompton Lakes does not desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda, now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 1854 through 1865.
Okay, thank you. We have ordinances first reading. Oh, I'm sorry, did I make a motion?
Approval, right?
Approval, yes.
Yeah, I'll
So
make a
moved,
motion.
Mayor. I'm sorry, I skipped that. Okay, all in favor?
I think you've made the motion.
First you have to do all.
Do you have a-
So moved, I thought we had
I
thought we had a-
I
move the approval. Okay, and Councilman, and Councilwoman Riker, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Against?
ordinance first reading.
Yep.
For introduction, this will be read for final adoption on February 7th,
February
14th.
14th.
Oh, there we go.
I'm sorry. Ordinance 18-06, an ordinance amending certain provisions of the borough zoning and land use provisions of the borough code.
This ordinance came from the planning board. It's recommendations from the planning board for changes to the land use portion of the administrative code. If you have any questions, you can call me about it later, or you could get in touch with Mr. Brewer. Otherwise, it'll be on for second on the 14th.
Okay. Have a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Day?
A second.
Council President Riker? All in favor? Aye. Against?
You want a roll call on it?
Yeah, you want to
Roll call,
roll?
yes.
Councilman Doran.
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker.
Yes.
Councilman.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Councilman Brennan.
Yes.
Unfortunately, we have no seconds.
No, I'm
Oh, for mine, yeah.
All these are at least
We're going to do all these together.
all together, yeah. We'll do the next group all together.
No, we're not.
First, I'm going to do
Not
1801.
Yeah, not 1801, but I'm saying,
Ordinance 18-01, an ordinance appointing Struble Ragno, attorneys of law, Joseph J. Ragg, as borough attorney for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2018.
motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 1801 only.
So moved.
Councilman President Riker?
Second.
Councilman Devine? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilman Devine? Second. Councilman Bennett? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 1801 for final adoption.
So moved, Mayor.
Councilman Branco?
Second.
Councilman, what's your name again? Devine? Roll call, please.
Councilman Devine.
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker.
Yes.
Councilman Brennan.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Councilman Branco.
Yes. Welcome.
Okay, so now we're going to do ordinance 18-02, an ordinance authorizing the mayor and borough clerk to execute a lease amendment with Pompton Lakes Riverdale Little League. 1803 is with Pompton Lakes Riverdale Soccer Association. 04 is with Pompton Lakes Organization. And 05 is with the Pompton Lakes Board of Education, Carlo Field.
Motion to open the meeting for public comment on ordinance 18-1 through, 2, through 5.
So moved.
Councilman Devine? Second. Councilman Brennan, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address just these ordinances? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
So moved.
Councilman Devine? Council President Riker? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinances 18-02, 18-03, 18-04, 18-05 for final adoption.
So moved, Mayor.
Councilman Branco?
Second.
Councilman Bennett. Roll call, please.
Councilman Devine.
Yes.
Councilman Giaconetti.
Yes.
Councilwoman Riker.
Yes.
Councilman Brennan.
Yes.
Councilman Day.
Yes.
Councilman Branco.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll start right off. I have an appointment. I have a couple appointments, actually. Motion to appoint Steve Edgeler to the position of alternate member number 2 on the planning board to fill an unexpired term through December 31st, 2018. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Councilman Devine? Second. Councilman Bennett? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve the following on the zoning board of adjustment. Alternate number 1, Maureen Bernstock, to unexpired term 12/31/19. Alternate 2, Mary Curran, unexpired term 12/31/18. Alternate number 3, Adam Kent, to unexpired term 12/31/18. Alternate number 4, Rich Singer, to unexpired term 12/31/19. Can I have a motion?
So moved, Mayor.
Councilman Branco?
Second.
Councilman Begg? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to appoint Glenn Huther to the position of trustee of the library board to fill an unexpired term through December 31st, 2022. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Council President Riker?
Second, Mayor.
Councilman Branco? All in favor?
Aye.
Against? So first of all, I'd like to just thank all our committees, because I've been trying to get to all the meetings, and I see that most of our committees are filled under my report, or are very close to being filled. It shows a good commitment by our town to be involved in what goes on in the town. So I like to see that. I like to see people step up and do what they feel is important for their town. We do have a couple open positions still. I think we have one at Shade Tree, if I'm correct. Do we have one or not?
Yes.
We do. We have one at Shade Tree. And any other committees that we're opening, looking for?
We have an open space position open, I think, District 1.
District 1 open space. Anybody else have anything, any open, okay, so I think that's a pretty good number for all the committees we have. We probably have, 10 or 12 committees with 10 members on each one, roughly. So that's a nice job by our town to be involved. Under my report, I had a couple meetings this last couple weeks, along with Councilman Riker, on redevelopment. Just to make people understand where we are with redevelopment, we've had 82 approved projects in town already. So that's done. People are either building them or getting ready to build them. I get a lot of questions about what projects we're looking at. The Salvation Army, which was the first one to come across, is a done project. It has been through all the permitting, it's been through all the boards, and it's ready to be built. The decision will be made by the person who owns the property, if he's going to build it like he had suspected he would, or if he wants to maybe sell it to someone else. But whoever buys the property, if someone was to buy that property, would have to follow the same arrangements that were made with the boards. They could start right away with the project. They would not have to go to the boards and change anything as long as the project changed. I will tell you, the redevelopment board sent that drawing back twice because they didn't like how it looked. It's so close to the high school, wanted it to match the high school, and I think they did a very good job in making that work. They also attended, it was unfortunate, it was on the same night as the field talk at the high school. The school invited me to talk to parents in the library about redevelopment, myself, Rob Walker, Mike Fabrizio, and Andy Silversea, and I thought it was a good crowd, a lot of talk back and forth, a lot of good questions, a lot of things that made people think about the pros and cons of it at the end of the day. Now, I understand also there was a pretty important meeting at the school going on with the fields. I would have been there, but I've said this before, I do support the fields. I think it's something that we should have in our town. Most towns around us have them already. It is an embarrassment to have state championship teams and playing in a mud bowl on most of the fields that we play in. How they work that out, how it comes about, that's all up to the school, it has nothing to do with the town. Personally, I do support that. There's been a lot of talk on Facebook about the flood maps. I know, and I'm hoping Councilman DeWine will follow up on this a little bit. Those letters are going out to residents about if they needed elevations, certificates. There's a little confusion on that, and I think the flood board, is that correct? They're working on trying to get us something out to explain the letter a little bit?
Yes.
Do they know when that's going to happen?
I think they sent something out regarding...
Well, they put it on Facebook, but I thought they were going to have a paper.
I think that's being discussed.
Still being discussed? Oh, is that being discussed more?
Tomorrow.
Okay, so there is confusion on if you need an elevation on your house, or if you had one before, if it's still good. There are pros and cons to getting the elevation, and I'll use my own home as an example. I'm in a floodway. I've been told by some people that do this for a living that I probably should not get one because it could affect my rate the wrong way. So before you jump into thinking if you need one right away, you should ask some questions. We always have Ed Merrill here in town. He can come and help you with that, or you can reach out to your insurance companies and ask them what they think. FEMA is just trying to cover all their bases, I think, and just sending this out as a blank letter to all residents. To someone like myself and most residents, they don't understand how the process works, so they should ask questions about it. They should follow up with, even call FEMA if you have to ask what they're asking. It's not cheap. I know some neighborhoods have been getting together and doing groups of houses at one time, so one surveyor comes in and it brings the price down. The prices I've heard range around $600 to $1,000 to have it done. If we had looked in my own neighborhood, even of putting 4 or 5 neighbors together, the price did come down substantially. So I think that's a good way to go also, but you should also check to see if you need one. Let me just check here. I did a couple weddings this last couple weeks. I've been kind of busy trying to hit every meeting to have everyone sworn in. So I've been to the library board meeting, I went to the historical meeting last night, recreation meeting last night, zoning board meeting last night. At the library meeting, their Friends of the Library group is doing a great job there, and they're really raising some money to a good cause to help the library. So anytime they have an event, I would hope we try to support them the best we can, because at the end of the day, we're doing is basically supporting the library. That's where the money's going. So, they're so dedicated, they actually came to the historical club meeting last night to talk about the projects they do to help the library, and they thought maybe a tie-in could be made there between the historical and the library. So, at historical, we had it is a dream of mine at one point maybe to have a museum in town, if we could have a museum. The people that run the Butler Museum, they have their own museum up there in Butler, came down to speak at the historical meeting and talked about how it works and what they do up there. The property was donated by the road at one point to the town of Butler, so they did have that step up, but the rest of it is all done by volunteers. They're only open on a Saturday. By appointments. You can make appointments with groups like Cub Scouts or Boy Scouts, and they'll gladly open up and show you. I think the historical committee is leaning to something like that, and, it'd be nice. We have a lot of history there. I actually had a resident drop off a book today. It was a 1929 phone book from Pompton Lakes, and it listed all the businesses in town. It listed the names of the individuals that owned the businesses and what businesses it was. And it also listed every resident in town at that point in 1929 by first name and last name. A lot of the names are streets in our town right now. It was very interesting to see, and I think the residents, if we had something like that, would be interested in seeing that. So hopefully they can move forward with that. And I think that's my report. Council President Riker.
Okay. What I'll do is I'll start with a few additions to some of the comments that you made, and then I'll deal with a few other issues. The library. The mayor mentioned that we now have a Friends of the Library group. So Friends of the Library group means they've gone through the necessary procedure, jumped through the hoops, so they're a designated 501c3 corporation, which means that not only can we support their events, the other thing is, with them being a 501c3, it means that you can make tax-deductible donations to them in honor of someone, in memory of someone, in terms of birth of children, grandchildren. So these are the types of ways that you can support the library that we didn't have that opportunity. So it's not just events, so there's other ways to approach it, which really hopefully will increase their coffers. Having done this work professionally for some time, fortunately or unfortunately, the best way to increase their coffers is as a 501c3. They could begin to start educating the community that they can be looking towards testamentary gifts. And the testamentary gifts will come in two forms. Arguably, someone in town who's very fond of the library will do a donation in their will. And the other thing which is very common is, in lieu of flowers, sometimes families will designate a charity. And I know from personal experience, I have an aunt and a cousin who died. Family was very involved with their community library, and they designated the library as the charity for people to donate in memory. And the library really was able to secure quite a few funds. So as people are beginning to think about how they can help the library, these are all ways that they've gone through the trouble of getting that Friends of the Library official designation. So I just, whatever we can do to help them, let's keep that in mind. Let's go to redevelopment for a minute. Redevelopment Agency has been meeting on a we have regularly scheduled meetings, and then some of these other meetings that come up based upon the needs of the developers and others interested in town. We had a redevelopment, our regularly scheduled meeting. We had another, what we refer to as a conceptual, and a conceptual means that the applicant bring along with their professionals, meaning their lawyer, their architect, comes before the agency and begins to tell us about their project. And what it does is it's an attempt to streamline the process so that they get the feedback of the agency, so their experts, meaning their architects, engineers, etc., are not spinning their wheels unnecessarily. They're not incurring additional expense. They get the feedback of the agency, so then their consultants can go back and make the modifications so that they have some expectation of what the community is really looking to see. And at our last meeting, we did have the conceptual for the Cardinal Cafe, because as many of you know, the Cardinal has in fact bought the property for Celtic themes, and they presented a very interesting architectural in terms of how they would outfit that location to us. It's just in the initial stages. Like I indicated, it wasn't a formal application, but it was very well received by the agency and the folks who were in the audience. Another part of redevelopment, many of you might know that Andy Silverstein is our chair of the redevelopment agency. He's also the chair of the planning board. But in his private life, he's a CPA and is involved with the community, with an organization called Commerce and Industry. Commerce and Industry was having a panel and speakers that were of particular interest from us in Pompton Lakes. So last week, both Andy attended and asked that I would attend with him as the vice chair of the agency and the council representative. And Rob Walker, who many of you know is very active in the bid. So Pompton Lakes was well represented at this meeting. It was a breakfast meeting. It was in Bergen County in Saddlebrook, and the topic that was of interest to everyone was the supermarket industry. And as everyone knows, we really are missing our supermarket in town, and we're doing a lot behind the scenes to try to get another market to come into the community. The CEO from ShopRite was there, a lawyer who specializes in land use, who represents a lot of these applicants, and also a real estate, commercial real estate person who acts as a broker for these properties. The expertise of the panel was phenomenal. The mayor happened to meet with us the next day, and we were like little children. My goodness, you wouldn't believe they were talking about this, right? We were sitting in his office going, yeah, I never saw you two so excited about going to a meeting. But the bottom line was we learned a lot more about the supermarket industry in terms of the possibility. Apparently one of the trends, which we're going to attempt to pursue, is that our community might be well suited to what they refer to as an ethnic supermarket with a generic twist, okay, which was relatively new to us. What does that mean? It means that, for instance, throughout northern New Jersey, you often see Asian markets, but who have the inventory really represents their entire community. Very heavy into fresh produce and vegetables. Another example they gave was on Route 4, there's a new supermarket called Gormanoff, if I'm saying it correctly, which the ethnic basis is Russian and Eastern European, but having enough food products to attract the general public. So that's one of the things that had been brought to our attention. The other thing, quite frankly, is the CEO from ShopRite indicated that he would send his people over and look at the property carefully, which was really, we're hoping that we're able to get him to follow through. Because ShopRite does not just have ShopRite. ShopRite has other divisions that our community, considering we have a very large ShopRite so near to us, which he knew, that our community might be better suited to one of the other ShopRite products. But to have someone like that who's so expert in the supermarket climate in this community meaning northern New Jersey, would really be a benefit to us. So that was a very exciting meeting to attend, and I'm hoping that something comes of it. And so I think that's in terms of redevelopment. The bid, Councilman Bay will talk about the bid. The only thing I want to say, and I'm hoping I'm not stealing your thunder, is that I was very excited sitting at the bid meeting, that they're trying to bring in some of the new merchants into the fold. So we have a new trustee on the bid. The fellow who owns the art shop in town is going to participate. So it's nice to get some new fresh blood, and he was very excited, and he was welcomed very warmly by the group. I know you have a whole report to go through, but that's what struck me. Having sat through many bid meetings, I thought, boy, this is good. The group is very vibrant. A couple of other real quick things. I'm guessing that many of you get this. This is the Chilton newsletter, and it used to be called Well Aware, and now that Chilton is affiliated with Atlantic, and they're trying to consolidate. This is the new title, and it's called Atlantic View. And the reason I'm talking about it is because the front cover is a Pompton Lakes resident. And it's Michael Catcher, who was a young man, and he experienced he's a emergency success story, and he and his mom are very vocal and visible about, you probably know the details better than I do, having served on the first aid squad, but it really tells the story, and it was just nice to see one of our residents and one of our young dynamic residents on the front cover. So if, assuming you get it and you wouldn't necessarily have read it, just take a minute and read the article.
So he's one of our young residents, 18 years old, who went into cardiac arrest, very serious. Fire department, first aid and police were first on hand, and they basically kept him alive until they brought him back to the hospital, where he's doing great. He's back in college now. I know the family, I know the son. It was a tough moment, though, in the beginning when it happened. Very scary, 18-year-old healthy kid. And they were very thankful of the first aid and the police department for doing what they did. They really did a lot to get him where he is today.
There's really a lot of help from the neighbors, and former trooper, that was a neighbor.
Former trooper was a neighbor who came over.
First aider from the first aid squad, that was a neighbor.
It's really a touching story.
It's really a
Yeah.
key thing.
Recently? Yeah,
Yes,
last year.
about
a year ago.
6-8 months ago, yeah.
He all the dominoes fell in the right spot. He had a neighbor who was a state trooper who they got first. Police got there, but a healthy 18-year-old with no real issues, and getting ready to go to college. That's where he was going.
So if you would like, because it seems that a lot of people haven't seen it, so if you want, we'll just pass it down to the audience so you folks can see what it is. I want to congratulate, apropos of this, the firemen who were just sworn in, a very hard-working volunteer group. And I do have a question for the administrator. I noticed when I was driving around town today that the Camorra's gates on Lake were open again. I'm assuming because the weather got warm. Are they going?
No, I spoke to them.
No? Okay.
They're just moving some equipment around that they didn't get to finish when the weather got cold so quickly. They're done with the actual work inside.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just moving equipment around and maybe taking some other equipment back. They don't need it anymore.
Yeah, okay, so, because I was a little startled, hadn't been opened in a very long time,
Well,
so...
because of the weather, yeah.
Yeah, so, it was just a heads up to folks with the activity of the trucks coming in, and just be cognizant when you're driving by there, because...
Well, the trucks are done.
But there's men running across the street,
Yes,
and
yes,
that and the
yes.
other thing, so suddenly there's activity in that spot, so even though cleanup is done, the site has not been completely dismantled. And, Mayor, I think that's my report.
Next to taxes, it's my second biggest question. When the supermarket coming back? So I will tell you that we are working hard on it. I'm in daily conversations almost about it with other people. It's a hard sell, but we're trying. Just a note that our council meeting of February 7th that's listed is actually going to be on February 14th. That's a mistake. So it's on February 14th and 28th next month. Just to note that.
So Valentine's Day with the council.
Yes, great. Councilman Barrento.
Everybody out here should be around.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to be very brief. First and foremost, to congratulate all the officers of our very proud and very capable fire department. They always do such a good job representing us and representing themselves to the memorials that we have them at, and they're all such great fellows. To give you guys a little bit of scale as to the history of the book that Mayor Serra referred to, a historical book from 1929. I flipped through it when I was in his office probably about 2 weeks ago. It basically listed all the businesses in town, and the telephone numbers of the businesses consisted of 4 digits, as opposed to the 10 that we use today. Just to give you an idea as to how historic that book was. Awesome read. It's good stuff. So I went to the MEA meeting on January 17th. Not much support. They did have photos and a little bit of description on a very large sewage pump that failed in town that they changed out. It was horrible, horrible condition. And I was very pleased that they got rid of that thing. And they just swore in Lloyd Kent to a full term as commissioner on the authority, and it was a pretty quick adjournment, and that was the end. And that is my report, Mayor.
Thank you. I have 2 other things I just quickly want to say. The Pompton Lakes Public Library is selling books that you can dedicate to any resident or any person you'd like, and they actually put a sticker in the book that stays with the book with your information on it and who you're dedicating the book to. If you're interested, I have forms, and the library has forms, and I think the cost is $25 per book. It's actually a nice little label they put in the book. Also, at the Joe Louis Memorial, an Eagle Scout is doing a project there, and he is selling bricks that you can have your name put into the ground on that would stay there. A 4x8 brick is $48, and the prices go up from there. If you're interested, I can give you that information. I'm going to leave it with Liz, and she would have that information if you're interested in buying a brick. Okay, Councilman Devine.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be a little less brief.
I was hoping more brief.
No such luck for me. Last Thursday, or maybe it was 2 Thursdays ago, the Environmental Protection Committee met, mostly discussing recycling, their plans for 2018, wanting to continue education, working with the Pompton Lakes High School to get the word out there, environmental club, just, different opportunities to work with them on a variety of things. They also expressed a desire to have the new interim DPW superintendent come to a meeting, just to, discuss his ideas, talk about some of the things that they've done over the years to, to encourage recycling and, ideas he might have to further that along. In addition, we have a new watershed ambassador. Again, they change every year, so that person did attend the meeting, talking about some of the things that they would like to assist the town in doing, and talking about opportunities to plant trees. And Brandy talked to him for a little bit afterwards on those opportunities. Immediately following that, we had an unofficial meeting of open space, because not everybody was appointed to open space, but I did want to make sure that the committee got an update on some of the things going on. We did discuss the borough acquiring the GHC. I know there's some ongoing ideas about what we can do and what our requirements are. Somebody brought up an interesting suggestion. Should it get to the point where there's not actually a radio station operating down there, but it might be a good location for some kind of environmental education center. So, maybe not necessarily the whole thing, but certainly the facility could potentially be used for that purpose. And we also discussed the expectation that the Morris Canal Greenway will be beginning pretty soon. I think it was, at the time, it was the next few weeks. I think Kevin will probably have an update on the timeline regarding that. January 16th, the Pompton Lakes Community Garden Committee held a public forum that was, I think, right before that snowstorm came in, but we got lucky. About 18 people attended that meeting. Yeah, a lot of good attendance, a lot of good interest. We've received a lot of good interest on Facebook, and a good number of people actually showed up. They had good questions. They provided good input. Some people know this stuff. They've been doing kind of different things, so I think it was valuable for them to hear about what our plans are, but also to get feedback from them on some things that I think the committee was able to take back and say, well, let's talk about these and how we incorporate moving forward. that resulted in our meeting yesterday, where we did discuss the results of the public forum, discussed how we're going to go about soliciting donations for certain materials, talked about the possibility of finding ways to allow people that may not want to necessarily participate in the community garden, but to contribute to the community garden, whether monetarily or something else, and then ways that we could certainly recognize those donations. And then going forward, outreach, signing people up. Again, we had 18 people. Maybe not all those people actually do sign up for a garden plot. Looking at about double that from the number of plots, so we've got some more plots to potentially fill. So, part of that's going to be getting the word out there, even if they didn't attend this meeting, on the ability to do so. As a result, we're going to be doing a web page with the information about the garden, a number of frequently asked questions. We'll also be doing an FAQ sheet to distribute out to the residents in case they don't rely
in our town website also?
Yeah, it'll be on our website, but we also do a hard copy sort of flyer that we can give to people if they don't end up going to our website, so they have that information. The other thing that I think somebody brought up at that forum that I thought was a good idea was getting some kind of letter out on borough letterhead to basically the residents in the adjacent location, and to say, this is what we're thinking about doing, letting them know that that's what's going on. That way it just doesn't,
We don't have to.
but it might just be a good way for a number of reasons. One, just to let them know that that's what's coming. Two, they might be interested in signing up. And three, having people that know that's what's going on and an active site might make them interested in keeping an eye on the site too. Just to make sure that nobody's doing things that they're not supposed to be doing. Along those lines, we're also discussing the possibility of doing some kind of banner at the sites and future location of the community garden or something like that. We weren't going to put the year. We're joking that it's, years down the road, but we're obviously looking at it.
Now, I have a question that I'd like you to find out about.
Sure.
Something brought to my attention. I don't think, and Kevin, you might be able to help us with this, I don't think residents can bring their own soil in, because it's going to be on our property. We don't know where that soil is coming from. Is that correct?
I don't think it's more of a legal question.
I would think the DEP would have a problem with that.
Okay, we'll have to discuss that, because will we be able to bring our own soil?
I think we would get sanctioned soil from somewhere,
Right,
from
okay.
a DEP site, but you couldn't, as a resident, say, this is the soil, because we don't know what's in that soil, it could contaminate our ground. So that's...
Okay, so that was something that was brought up at the public forum, because I think, as one resident mentioned, if they're growing a certain kind of plant, they might want a certain pH level of the soil and certain things. So they did talk about the ability to bring in their own soil, and certainly that wasn't something that we knew about, so we'll have to go back and discuss that.
And the only reason I bring this up is because we used to use Joe Grill as our dump ground for snow.
Right.
And then we had to stop using it because the DEP said you don't know what's in the snow that you're dumping on the ground, and it could contaminate the soil that's underneath. So I think there's probably restrictions in there on how that works.
I'm wondering if, because the same way that we had discussed at that meeting, whatever planting soil that we do bring in specifically for that purpose, we would want to have tested to know that that's, appropriate soil, that it's clean and everything like that. What the option may be is if, maybe we don't allow people to bring in their own soil, but maybe the other option would be, you can bring in your own soil, but you have to provide a soil test
that might
as a
be
result.
good, but
That might be the way to do
I would
it.
ask our attorney, and would have to review that whole thing.
Sure.
I think you need to run it by your engineer and the DEP.
Are we talking about floodplain here?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely, you can't bring anything in from the outside.
Well, we've had some initial discussions with the DP. We were emailing them at the beginning, because it is on a Blue Acre site, and there wasn't a whole lot of pushback on the idea of this location and the raised beds and the soil that we're.
I would think we would need a letter from the DEP saying we can.
Yes, sir, that color should have it.
Yeah, there's zero net fill there.
Okay.
So, maybe they'll give us the letter, it'll be easy.
Yeah.
Let's get it in
Just
writing.
as what the mayor is saying, we do any of the work in the rivers, we take the soil out and let it dry. All that is tested prior to us having it shipped to, you can't move without testing.
Right.
So it's kind of the same thing, we probably can't bring it without testing.
Probably bring it in.
It could be
Okay.
easier on that.
That's something for us to certainly follow.
Right, and it might be something that we know where we're getting the soil from, and we test it once, and then it's a pile that people use, but I don't know if they're gonna allow you to keep a pile of soil in the flood zone.
Well, no, it's not going to be keeping a pile of soil in the flood zone, it's gonna be getting people to put in the garden plots.
Right, but it's a zero net fill, and I will tell you this, some of the residents, and some of them might, but not, but some of the residents in the flood zone down there might have a problem with even an inch of something going there. When we were in the soccer, when I was involved with soccer, we would try to fill holes in that were being set from people running, and we had residents bring it to DEP's concern that, look, they're bringing dirt in there.
All right, well, we'll
That's
have
the
to
same
look
problem
at
with Little League.
Yeah, so it's something we need to look at.
Sure, okay.
I believe DEP offered what you found on site to come up and evaluate.
Yeah, but, that was part of the discussion about having the plots and everything like that, the raised beds. Going back into December a little bit, because I wasn't at the January 10th meeting, just to give a little bit of update from the Flood Advisory Board. I guess the letters actually concerning the elevation certificate did go out, but for whatever reason, some streets were missed, so they're in the process of filling those gaps right now. The work on the Wanacue River has been ongoing. At the end of December, about 16 to 18 trees have been removed. Lake Restoration Committee discussed the completion of the Esserbrook Delta remediation. The next step is the installation of the eco layer to facilitate native plant growth. They would actually like to discuss the possibility of providing input into the restoration area.
Already in their plan.
Oh, so Camorris has basically finalized it?
Then they finalized it with the EPA and DEP.
Okay.
What species, what they're planting, that hasn't been finalized.
Okay.
But what they're doing has been finalized.
But in terms of, I guess, amenities, things like that?
Amenities is in there already, yes.
Okay. Okay.
Now, it doesn't mean you can't offer them as they're doing something.
Right, because I think what they wanted to do was they wanted to take what were, brought forward the Picture of Pompton Lakes contest and say, here are some of the ideas that, our school children had for the restoration of this
It was actually done, probably, the whole report on it, and it was probably done 5 years ago when they actually came
Right,
together.
but, I don't know if it's finalized.
Well, it's finalized by the EPA and the
Okay.
DEP.
So, I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
We can reach out to Dave Epps and see where they are on if they're open to something like that. The committee has also updated the Lake Restoration Committee has also updated their lake management plan, and they would like to present updates to the council in the near future. I think we talked about doing it on February 28th,
Okay.
at the beginning of the meeting.
Do that with Liz, make sure she sets that up.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Stormwater Management Committee has moved their meeting from the second Tuesday of the month at 7 p.m., which is basically right before the Lake Restoration Committee met. They're actually going to be meeting on the fourth Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. I think we approved that by resolution at the reorg meeting. The impervious coverage study has been completed by Passaic County Planning, and the Flood Advisory Board is just reviewing that information. And then finally, the Climatology Committee reported that
A lot of committees.
there's a lot of committees on the Flood Advisory Board, yes. The Climatology Committee, unfortunately,
I didn't even know we had
it's just one person. 2017 was actually the wettest year since 2011, and despite the higher rainfall amounts, no river reached action state. So that's
Great.
something that somebody's been paying attention to rainfall and how it relates to the river gauges, things like that, just tracking that.
It just shows what we're doing. And we'll-
Yeah, I think, how much is it, the intensity of a certain rainfall and things like that, has to be discussed. But I think those, again, going back to some of the nuisance flooding and things like that, where we would have necessarily might have reached action states, that has been avoided, and that was avoided in 2017. And that concludes.
Okay, thank you.
I wanted to bring up to Eric, I don't know if, or anybody else on the council seen today's record on the front page on the bottom, talked about in Morris County. They approved the old railroad track bed from almost Route 23 in Pequannock all the way down, the abandoned track, all the way down to Matthews section of Wayne to be done. Is that something we were talking about,
We had,
doing our trail to connect with that?
yeah, when we were, I think it was last year, we were having some discussions with Morris County, Passaic County,
Yeah.
and Pequannock about doing a conceptual development of a study to see whether there was a possibility of either establishing a bridge from where our trails currently are
Right.
over the Pequannock River. Basically, there's footings of an old bridge there.
The old cat bridges.
An old
Right,
bridge,
yeah.
right. So that would potentially be the footings for the restoration of a bridge that would actually end up being about the beginning of that trail you're referencing.
Right, yeah.
So that was something that was discussed. I think some of, one of the things that we had talked about was Pompton Lakes can't own that bridge.
Right.
Maybe it becomes a Morris County Park Commission bridge that they own it. I think some of the other players weren't as quick to step up to the plate and get the commitments that are needed. Part of it might just be better off just waiting until that trail is...
That section is done right.
Yeah,
Maybe we
and see
can-
where it goes from there, because I think
Yeah.
that was, when I worked for Morris County, that was something that we were discussing 6 years ago, and I know it had been ongoing planning well beyond that, so
Yeah.
I think this is maybe the final step to actually acquire that property.
Yeah.
So they can actually go forward and finalize design and then get the
Yeah,
actual trail.
so maybe some good news.
Yeah,
Once
something,
it's done,
if
maybe
we
it's
can
something-
connect to that, it's a
It would be nice,
great
yeah.
additional resource.
That
Yeah.
trail's 20 years in the making.
It hasn't been, wow, okay.
Yeah, I think...
I started that.
I don't remember talking about it, and then I just seen it
Yeah, well, we
today.
looked at it, but the real, and Kevin, Eric hit it on
What?
the head, on a nutshell. We can't take ownership of a bridge.
That old
had
Cap
river
Bridge?
floods.
Right.
And if that bridge is to move or to get
That's the one all at the end of Riverdale Boulevard.
we can't be responsible for fixing that, and the
Right.
county didn't want to step up and say, we're gonna do it, so I think somebody needs to step up and say, I'm doing the
Like
bridge.
maybe Eric said, well, maybe once they're done with that project,
Yes,
it'll be
maybe.
right there, maybe we
Yes.
could finally maybe come to some
Right, and that's
time.
what we're waiting to get some more information on.
Gotcha, okay, great.
I just want to follow up on one thing that I forgot to mention in my report, and Dawn reminded me of, the radio station. I am getting some calls and emails from people about the radio station. We are in talks and negotiations with a couple different groups about the radio station. We're hoping to bring it back, not us as a town to run a radio station, but there are some groups that would come in and run the radio station as it was, or close to what it was before. I'm hopeful that will happen, sooner than later. We all know, and I think all of this council supports the idea that, remember, we were not the ones that wanted the radio station to leave. We would have been glad to have it stay for the rest of its term, but they decided to pull out on their own. But I think there is some interest with the radio station, so hopefully we'll have some good news in the next couple of months about that. Councilman Giaconetti.
Thank you. First, I just wanted to congratulate all the chief and assistant chief and all the lieutenants and sworn in tonight, the Pompton Lakes Fire Department. Like the mayor said, the best around, so, again, congratulations to all of them. Wanted to run by the administrator. The down tree service is our only one. They're gonna be doing the small trees, big trees, stump grinding? Oh, excellent. Well, that's good news, so hopefully, which is good. I know they work well with the Shade Tree Commission. They're great with, Randy works great with them, and they're great with us, and I'm happy to see that. Apparently, they were the only bid?
No,
We had several others?
you
Okay.
just bid, but they weren't close to any of the different...
Oh, great. All right, awesome. Good news. Thank you, Kevin. Also, just so everybody knows, I know Liz sent down to him, I'm gonna be our liaison for the solid waste advisory, for Passaic County. And I'm gonna wait till, Mr. O'Rourke, our interim superintendent, he'll be on there with me, and, we'll be with them as far as recycling and everything else like that. And I know when he gets on, I'll reach out to him, Eric, in regards to maybe him coming, meeting with them to discuss recycling and that, so.
Yeah.
But give him some time, once he gets it.
Yeah, that's what
I think it's the
that's what we kind
12th.
of decided to let them...
Yeah, he'll be here the 12th, so, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I'll definitely
It
move on
wasn't
on that.
anything like, had to happen next month.
No, but I think it's a good idea. No, it was a really good idea that they mentioned it. The last thing I just wanted to mention is to remind everybody again, DPW wanted to remind, when it snows. I know it's really haven't had snow in a while, but when it does snow, ordinance 18015, A and B, when the snow's covered and the plows are out plowing, cars have to be off the roadway. I know we mentioned it, I think a couple meetings ago, or maybe last meeting, one of the few times we allowed parking overnight. Years ago, when I was going through, when I had my car, we had to get off the street. We parked on the grass, we had to find a place to park. Everybody, we needed it. Now we have it where you can park all year round, but the only time you have to move the cars, we get in, they start plowing, have to move the cars at least 24 hours and let the DPW plow all the streets, curb to curb. And once they're done, you can bring the cars back again. So I just wanted to remind the DPW, please remind that. And the other thing they wanted me to remind, everybody is with the basketball nets. And I think they had a couple almost hit again, to try to move them even back. An ordinance, whether they do it or not, but, try to move them back when it snows, and this way, when they're done, they can bring it back, they're gonna play in the streets, but to remove that was the two things I wanted to remove.
And it's very important. I'm going to tell you this, that the police have been actually nice about it in the last couple of snowstorms. They've tried to find the owners and not ticket them.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen that way. You need to remove your cars from the street. There's no in-between, so the plows can plow curb to curb. If we don't park curb to curb, it becomes a problem once it freezes and cars can't drive on the street anymore. So you're going to have to find a place for your cars, talk to your neighbors, move them somewhere, We're asking you to move it for 24 to 48 hours, that's all we're asking. After that, you can go back to parking on the street. But if they don't clean curb to curb, you're not gonna be able to park your car on the street, and we'll be like other towns that have cars in the middle of the street because they can't get to the curb to park car. So this is important. We're trying to work with residents, but I know I try to stay off that Facebook, but I read some of that stuff there, and people are screaming out, we're ticketing cars on the street. You know the laws, you know what they are, just follow them and everything should be fine.
I
Thank
have
you,
a
Mayor.
question. I had
Yeah.
asked it casually of the mayor, but it really didn't know if there was some rule of thumb. When we have a snowstorm, what happens to garbage and recycling?
There is no set standard, because we use the same guys that do plowing, that do garbage. If they can do both, which they most likely will try to both, they will, but there will be some snowstorms where they just won't have the manpower to do that. You won't know that. Somebody had 5 calls asking me if recycling was out. I said, I put mine out, that's what I can tell you. And they did do it. They came later in the day, but they did do it.
Normally what happens on the truck is that they'll have Al do reverse 911, let people know that.
Yeah, we get certificate snowfall.
If it's not.
If it's not, so tell them not to pick it up.
Okay.
So if you hear nothing, assume it's on.
It's still going, right, still recycling, yes.
So can I ask a question regarding
Yeah.
that? Because we go basically a month between certain recycling pickups. If we had a snowstorm like we had that day, and there wasn't paper recycling, I think that was what was getting picked up that day, and they had to cancel it. Is there any mechanism for rescheduling recycling without having to wait another month to get it picked up?
There's a couple questions I answer. I would say in the old days, no. In the new days with the new superintendent,
We're looking into that,
we have a
absolutely.
5th Wednesday sometimes in the month. That 5th Wednesday is not set for a pickup.
Right.
So if it happens that we missed a pickup, I would hope that this new person might say, hey, maybe we have time on that 5th Wednesday to come back and do it. But that's something we'll discuss with the new person when he comes
And
in.
we're gonna look to even maybe add an extra day.
Right.
This way you have a couple days.
Right, and I think
That's something he wanted to discuss, but we want to wait till him get in there, whether we need an extra truck, some more manpower, some things he can look at once he's here to determine that, but that's some of the things that we discussed, so.
So I think we're all gearing up to see some changes at the DPW level, and from top to, not in manpower, but in how they do their business.
Yeah.
And any suggestions from the residents or from the council to them, I'm sure they'll listen to, and we'll see if we can make them work, if it's something we want to do.
Yeah. So,
Okay, Councilman
thank you,
Bennett.
Mayor. Yes, thank you.
Councilman Bennett, nice to meet you. Let's go, move it along.
I also attended the community garden meeting. I want to thank the committee for working so hard to get this thing moving along, and I'm excited to see some activity in that area. So it'll be fenced, correct?
Yes.
To keep the,
It's another whole,
Well, no, that was very explicit from the DEP.
They said okay
That
to
as
that?
long as the water can freely flow through the fencing, it would probably be okay.
I want that in writing.
It can be, I have an email.
fence, it'll be fenced, it'll be gated and locked.
Yes.
For security purposes, so folks don't go in and, tamper and whatnot that aren't supposed to be there. So that's exciting. I also attended, the Passaic County Clerk Poster Contest Awards ceremony. We had, a winner from Lincoln Elementary, 4th grade. Let me give some background. So, each year, Passaic County Clerk, opens it up to 4th graders in the county to draw a poster indicating, a historic, site in Passaic County or another feature of Passaic County. And, we had a winner from, Lincoln Elementary School, Amanda Fasolino. And she got 3rd place for a drawing of the Great Falls. And Catherine Venn, my daughter, won honorable mention for a drawing of Pompton Reformed Church, which she presented at church last Sunday. Very, very nice. About 25 kids and their families were in attendance. It was a nice ceremony. I also attended the Historic Commission meeting last night. We're still looking for a Class A member.
Oh, so you were, yeah, that's right.
Yes, the Class A member is an architect or an engineer. I believe they don't have to be from town, but it's an architect or engineer with a specialty in historic structures. So yeah, right? Who doesn't know one? Architect or engineer, right? Historic specialty. Reach out to me or mayor. Somebody calls the mayor.
Get that line of people, we'll do some resumes and see which
Sounds
ones.
Are you still looking for a Class A for planning board as well?
No, we're good on planning. Oh, no, Class A, no, we are
No,
looking for
I think
Class
you're
A,
still looking for.
which is a borough employee. They have to be a borough employee. Borough official.
What else? That's all I got. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. That's nice to hear that your daughter won an award, especially to bringing Pompton Lakes to the county. So good. Councilman Begg.
Thank you. I received the Pompton Lakes Police Department's report for the month of December 2017 and also for the year 2017 from Chief Moses Augusto. There were 1,274 calls for service in the month of December. For the year, it was 19,809 calls. Motor vehicle stops, there were 238 stops for the month and 3,848 for the year. Motor vehicle summonses issued, 62 for the month, 1,854 for the year. Motor vehicle accidents investigated, 27 for the month, 304 for the year. DWI arrests, 1 for December, 26 for the year. Alarm conditions burglary, 29 for the month, 310 for the year. Alarm conditions fire, 11 for the month, 49 for the year. Fire calls, 8 for the month, 87 for the year. Ambulance requests, 51 for the month, 684 for the year. Burglaries, 3 for December, 83 for the year. Thefts, no thefts in December, 91 for the year. Domestic violence, 4 for the month, 103 for the year. And sexual assaults contacts, 0 for the month, 4 for the year. No aggravated assaults during the year or the month. The Detective Bureau investigated 26 complaints in December and 250 complaints for the year. Served 6 subpoenas in the month and 170 during the year. And served 6 warrants for the month and 50 for the year. I attended the Pompton Lakes Community Partnership Board, the bid meeting on January 18th, 2018. There was a recommendation to move the approval of the budget from January to April. This would allow the market committee to prepare their portion of the budget. President John Susan reported there was negotiations on facade and signage grants with cowboy wings. They're looking to change the color on that. He introduced Mike McCarty as the new member of the board. He's taking Greg Smith's place, and Greg served probably for about 10 years on the board.
At least.
He also spoke about improvements needed in Pond Hole in the East parking lot, and the bid's willingness to contribute to the improvements. Executive Director Mike Parisi advised that the bid has opened a new office at 247 Wanacue Avenue. It's also being shared by the Drug Coalition. It was also reported that the next bid buck sale will be February 10th, 2018, from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m., and will be held at the new bid office. Again, the fire department does a wonderful job for the town. In 2017, they answered 326 alarms. That's pushing close to 1 alarm a day. They do a very fine job. The leadership you saw sworn tonight, there's a strong leadership. Ron Ficaro, who's the chief, aside from being the chief here, is actually a professional fireman. We do have good leadership, and we have a good fire department. So I look forward to working with them in the future.
You are correct about our fire department. Thank you. Professional reports. Administrator.
Yes, a couple things, Mayor. Council has a copy of my report and all the backup. I emailed that last week. We're working on an application for the CDBG, which is a federal program run through the county of Passaic for additional ATA curb ramp work in the area of Ackerman and Midland Avenue. We're talking about 16 curb ramps, about $75,000 total project. We usually receive between $45,000 and $50,000 in grants over the last two projects, so we're hoping to get the same type of response when we apply in the next couple of weeks. Also, I gave the council a copy of the pedestrian bicycle improvement project steering committee report. That's all part of the Police Streets program. We'll be having a meeting here on February the 8th at 9:30 to discuss that with the local steering committee.
Just go back to that for a second. Have they just come in to take a look still, right? Or where are we at that phase?
Well, Eric's really dealing with that on a regular basis.
Yeah, they've gone through, I think, some of the data collection. They're doing, taking the survey and things like that. What we haven't been able to do is really meet with the stakeholders, like have the stakeholder committee meet, which is what we're doing. It keeps getting pushed back for one reason or another. So that's why we're meeting on February. So we're not quite at the point where they don't have specific recommendations and they don't have the plan ready. But I think what they want to do is really introduce the project, what they've done so far, talk about possible strategies, talk about some of the issues that have been identified by our residents and other things.
Okay. All right, I'm sorry.
Last meeting, I discussed a request by the FBLA to put advertising signage down at Hershfield Park. Since that meeting, I talked to Dr. Amoroso, and the Board of Education has determined that they're going to only allow those signage on their own fencing. So it's not going to impact our fencing. We don't regulate it, so we're kind of out of that. The board thought that was probably a cleaner way to do it in that respect. And just in response to Councilman DeLine's comments on the Morristown Greenway, our part of the project, we had the project meeting 2 weeks ago, as I mentioned in the last meeting. We're really waiting for weather to break. We've had the very, very severe cold. Now we went to the rain. Now we're back to cold again. As soon as they can break, they'll start. The game plan is to have the greenway itself installed by March, and then if we have to, do the plantings as the weather, comes along, so they end up having plants that don't take hold. So right now, it looks like one way or the other, they want to have the greenway in for March, use the pathway itself. This way, this is how people utilize it. There is some question about the type of stone and how we'll work with the mesh and bike usage. So they're going to do a very short stretch to see if bikes will really travel. If not, they might change the compaction of the stones from the sizes out to different size, depending on how it plays out. But we're hoping to get started relatively soon, so they can have the path in early March. That's the game plan.
Okay, great. Any questions for the Administrator?
Oh, good. Thank you.
None? Okay, before we jump to the open session, I just got one more thing I have to talk about. The Elks have approached us about doing a carnival and you all have it in your packet, August 28th till Pompton Day on the 2nd.
Weekend.
Right. Now, the only little small issue, it's not a big deal, is that we allow carnivals in our town in June, July, and August. That's by ordinance. We can make an exception, which we can talk about, to make it go into September. There are some other things that we're going to have to adjust and think about, because it is on the same day as Pompton Day. They'd like to have this carnival. The recreation, I met with them last night, didn't have a real issue with it, but there's some things they'd like to work out with them. And one of the things, for example, we allow one type of food vendor per area in Pompton Day, and they want to make sure if they're selling food, it's not the same food that they're selling in Pompton Day. Parking would be an issue, but if you look in your packet, it has to go to police, it has to go to fire, it has to go to a couple different groups. What we really have to do is, I just have to get a feel that we're okay with the idea of having a carnival, for another carnival that would be on the Elks property. Everything would be on the Elks property. You have a small brochure of the company that would be doing it. And the management has changed at the Elks, and they want to be much more involved with the town. So, I think at that point, it would be a good thing it would be a win-win for everybody. But if you have any suggestions or anything, now's the time to let me know before I talk to you. So,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I personally think that, if anything, this would be an enhancement to Pompton Day.
I agree.
Yeah, I think people that normally wouldn't know about Pompton Day, but know about the Elks and the larger thing, would come to something like this, and they would, as a result, do some of the things that we do at Pompton Day ourselves, and vice versa, honestly. So, and the food thing maybe is a consideration, but otherwise, I think this is overall a positive for everybody.
And one of the things I'd like to talk to the Elks about is, because they have their parking area, and a lot of that'll be used for the carnival, but if they have extra stuff, I'd like to try to use them for seniors from Pompton Day to park there, because one of the problems we run into with parking at the lakeside is the seniors walk one way, and then they really can't walk back to the other side. So if there was closer parking for seniors, That might help us out a little bit.
Yeah.
But these are all things I'll sit down with Dale to talk about. I just want to know the consensus of the council.
There's another, I think, that, my understanding is in Pompton Day, the bouncy houses
Yeah,
and those
good
things
point.
are all free.
Yeah. No,
Okay,
we
so
pay for
where-
them.
No, free to the public.
to the public.
Yes, free to the public. So what happens is,
They will put it on their property for free. It would be part of the carnival as free.
that's not what I'm asking. What I'm concerned about is that people are coming to Pompton Day with the understanding that if they purchase something, they pay for it, but the activities, like the bouncy house and other things, are open to the, for the kids, are free for them to use. I understand that we hire folks. When they transition into the Elks property, the carnival stuff isn't going to be.
No,
free,
just
is
the
it?
bounce, they would incorporate everything that we had initially, that we were paying for, the bouncy house and all those things, they would put into the carnival, and that section would be free to anyone who wants it.
I guess my concern is how does, assuming someone is not sitting watching these meetings, that they come for the day to have a good time, to make it clear, when do you cross the line that something is free and when it
Well,
isn't?
the bouncy house and all that will still be where it was.
Right,
It's just that they're gonna pay for it instead of us.
okay.
So everything stays exactly as it's been set up.
Who's gonna
It's just
pay for it? The Elks Fund?
The Elks gonna pay for
Pay?
it instead of us.
Okay.
And then they're part of it going on their property.
Yes, that's
Not-
what I would like to say.
They're doing any carnival stuff on our streets.
Yeah.
They can't do that. It has to be on their property.
I would like to say, and this is for the sort of the fluidity of the public's engagement of that day. The bouncy houses should remain where they are.
They will.
They should be free.
Right.
And the carnival separate where you have to pay.
Yes, that's correct.
Otherwise, we create confusion, we create, and we don't want that.
Well, they would, everything that they would do within their carnival has to be on their property.
Yeah.
So they would keep everything on their property. We never use their property for Pompton Day. We don't use their property for anything. It's because it's their property. So our structure of the stroll of the Pompton Day would be the same. It's just that there would be an added thing to the end of it on their property.
Mayor, my concern is that that the position is, well, we'll do it just the way we did Pompton Day, without acknowledging that there are people who will be coming to Pompton Day for the first time. I'm not talking about the Elks folks, who will get their overflow, and it could be a win-win. I am concerned that when we do the devil's in the details, that when we do have our meetings with them, that there is some clear distinction when you cross into payment land.
Well, that would be Elks property, yeah. And you're on their
I
property.
think
That would have to get done, that has to be done tonight.
communication and some signage
Right.
when they know
Oh,
that.
I'm sure they're selling tickets and all that whole thing.
Right, so that suddenly it's, the people don't associate that
Yeah,
with.
Whatever publicity Elks do has to make clear, I'm sure they're gonna have like, a wristband day set, they'll want to clear there's gonna be a fun situation there.
Aren't they going to have this like several days before?
Yes,
Yes.
Wednesday, well,
That should define
People
it
be
right
carnival
there.
out.
That should be defined.
well,
right there.
but no,
She's talking about
because,
new people
no, but
coming.
I'm
Yeah.
talking, yes, according to the notice we have, it will start Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, so our issue arguably is that Sunday, and it really would involve our setup, our people will set up early in the morning, they don't set up the day before, so that's an option.
Well, it doesn't matter. It's our streets we're setting up, the same way we always set up.
Yeah.
So, I'm assuming that they will notify their vendor of what we traditionally do, and they'll do their wristband day and whatever accordingly.
By the way,
However they sell their tags, doesn't do with us.
By the way, it's the same vendor that is now going to be doing the carnival at St. Mary's. So we'll have an idea as to how they operate on St. Mary's Carnival.
Okay, so any other conversation on it?
No.
Good. Motion to open the meeting for public comments. So moved. Second. Councilman Devine, Councilman Marenko, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up.
My name is Bob Mott.
You can come up to the mic so we can get you on the,
Good evening.
My name is Bob Mott, I'm with the Pompton Lake Elks.
Perfect, that's why I said
Hey,
it.
listen, I listened to all the conversation, so. We never had a carnival before, of course, you guys know. We're looking forward to do it the right way. We're gonna be in touch with whatever recommendations you have for us, with department, fire department. I already talked to, the fire inspector, Al Bruno, and the other fellow that was with him in the...
Steve Keener, yeah.
Steve. I'd like to talk with the chief, of course, and whoever else we have to get involved with.
Okay.
Looking for your input. Like I said, I'm looking forward to that meeting. I want to do this thing the right way, and I want it to be good for the town of Pompton Lakes and us. So that's why we're doing it. It's going to be a big fundraiser for the charities. You know, we raise a lot of money for Camp Moore up on the hill. We have the Miracle Run that you hear of. We had it 2 years ago again this year. So the setup, I don't know if you ever came to the last one. We had an awful lot of cars on our property.
A lot of people there, yeah.
We could get a lot of people off the roads. Just looking for any kind of help I can get from you guys.
So I think,
Have we done
and you heard the
anything?
conversation, I think what's gonna happen is, the rec department who runs Pompton Day will have a sit-down meeting with whoever you want from the Elks and the rec department. That's mostly Karen Murphy, and just go over some of the stipulations that they have set up for their own vendors on the street that we'd want to kind of incorporate. Now, are you selling food? You're gonna be selling food there?
Not our lunch. We're looking for vendors to come in, so whatever you have in town, if they can set up, when they want to take a booth, or they want to set up a...
Well,
table
and
or
that's the
trailer.
situation. We want to just make sure we don't have like, 3 pizza guys, and then you have 2 more.
I have friends that own food trucks, but I don't want them to come in and compete with the people from the town.
Right, and that's when we'll sit down with the rec and talk about it. And then the Councilman, President Riker's situation, I'm sure you'll have a separation of where you enter into the carnival, because you're gonna have tickets, and you're gonna have that whole setup and thing. And then the rides would be running. The other question that I'll just bring up that the rec brought up last night was, what time would the rides end on Pompton Day? I mean, you're gonna go...
You do the fireworks at what, like 8:30, it gets dark, 9:30, 10?
8 o'clock, it gets dark earlier.
We end it like an hour before they start the fireworks.
Okay, so
We
what...
got the call on that.
Right, so, I mean, we would have, theoretically, and this would, something you'd have to work out with them, we'd want to try to be pretty dark over there.
Oh, sure.
Obviously, as the fireworks go.
Yeah,
So, those are things we can work out moving forward.
Yeah,
I
they're
think-
pretty good, the people with the carnival. I've been talking to them, maybe every other week, and they're ready to help us out anyway. They
Right.
can too, so.
And I think, the little stipulation about September we'll take care of, and then you should be, good to go with that, but we'll still have that meeting to get
Okay.
things formalized.
So can I go ahead and, I didn't want to put anything out yet until I get the okay from
Yeah, I think the
council.
council said okay to the idea, as long as...
I like the idea.
As long as you're gonna get you gotta get your yeses from fire and police, that's all gonna be in writing, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah,
Right, so, they have their ways of doing things, that we don't tell them how they do that, so you'd have to go through their steps to do that.
Great.
And then all we're requiring on our side is to have sit down for recreation and talk about how we finalize a little bit of the smaller things.
Okay, sounds great.
Thank you, Bob.
I will, thanks.
Great idea.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Great idea.
Thank you for coming.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public comments?
So moved.
Klein, Councilman Branco, all in favor? Aye. Against? Anybody have privilege of the floor?
So just going back to that conversation real quick, I think at some point the ordinance committee probably should meet and discuss whether this would just be an exception, grant an exception, or whether that ordinance should be changed to allow.
We can make an exception, I was told.
I mean, I guess the question would be, if this is an ongoing thing, are we gonna look to grant an exception every year? Or should we just do a change in the ordinance that allows for carnivals in September up to a certain December?
That's something
or,
I guess we can look
You know,
at.
starting from
I'm assuming, I'm
Memorial
not gonna
Day
speak
to
for the Elks,
Labor Day or
but
something.
Lisa is thinking about doing this all for moving Christmas to happen, or is this a one-time thing? Yeah, all right, so then maybe we look at it, yes.
I think that's a good idea then, yeah.
Okay, that's up to you, okay? That's fine.
I just want to reiterate, Councilman Baig announced the next bid buck sale, and that will happen before our next council meeting. So it is Saturday, February 10th, just to help get the word out, because, February, people don't come flocking quite as much as other times of year. And the other thing that he said is that it's no longer at Susan Construction, it's across the street at the new bid office.
What's the time, the time?
11 to 1.
11 to 1.
right?
Could be 11 to 1.
And that's on Saturday. Okay, thank you.
Any other privilege of the floor?
Pompton Lakes Prevention Coalition meeting tomorrow night?
Yes, there's a Municipal Alliance Coalition tomorrow at 7 o'clock in the new Alliance office on Wanacue Avenue.
The invite says 223 Wanacue, not 247. I'm trying to...
I asked her, she told me it was in the new place, but Liz, did we hear anything?
The office, the one we moved over last Friday.
Yeah, everything's in there, so I don't know why it wouldn't be.
Maybe it's just
Might have been an
typo.
oversight.
Yeah.
Probably a typo.
If worse comes to worse, we walk across.
It's not that far.
Motion to adjourn. So move, Mayor. Councilman Branco, Councilman Devine. All right, thank you, everyone.
247.